The Great Pyramids in Egypt have been constructed with an unbelievable amount of precision, and the astronomical alignments and numerical values encoded in these megalithic structures are just too mind-boggling to ignore. It really is true that the more you look into the Great Pyramids, the stranger and more utterly perplexing they become. Setting aside the arguments on when they were built and for what purpose, let's assume that they were actually built by the pharaoh Khufu in the Old Kingdom over a 20-year period starting in 2580 BC, and used primarily as tombs. Even though no one's ever found a single mummy in any pyramid in Egypt, and the only reason these structures are attributed to that 4th dynasty pharaoh is because his name is engraved in one spot. I don't think it's entirely out of the realm of possibility that he could have discovered these pyramids already being ancient in his time and decided to claim them as his. Anyways, back to the subject of this video. The fact is that you can't ignore that these absolutely gigantic structures were built with such an insane level of precision, being aligned to true north, south, east, and west, with only the most minute discrepancy, and the Great Pyramid itself being a 1 to 43,200 scale model of the Earth. We'll expand on the significance of that number and its multiples in a moment. Now, if we assume that the pyramids were built by the endless sweat and blood of slaves over a course of 20 years, then that would actually make these structures all the more impressive. Personally, I believe that this is the work of some extremely talented craftsmen that had access to some form of technology that either we don't currently possess or are unaware of. But that's a topic for another video. There's just no way that slaves could have accidentally or purposefully achieved this level of precision at such a monumental scale with only primitive tools. The numbers. If you multiply the base perimeter of the Great Pyramid, 3,024 feet, by 43,200, you get the equatorial circumference of the Earth. Then, if you multiply the height of the Great Pyramid, 481 feet, by 43,200, you get the polar radius of the Earth. This means that the Great Pyramid is a 1 to 43,200 scale model of the Earth. What an ingenious way for a people of a long-gone era to demonstrate to a future civilization of a similar level of technological advancement that they possess a high level of knowledge about the size of the Earth, by encoding it into an enormous structure composed of over 2.3 million blocks, weighing nearly 6 million tons. The number 43,200 is no accident either, as it demonstrates a knowledge of precession as well, which is the way in which the Earth wobbles on its axis. 43,200 is a multiple of 72, and every 72 years, the Earth turns 1 degree on its axis. As a side note, in Egyptian mythology, the number of conspirators sent by the god Set to kill Osiris was 72. Interesting number choice. We'll take a quick tangent to give some more importance to the number 72. This number is approximately the average time in years that we get to live here on Earth. It's also the average heart rate of a healthy person and the average room temperature in Fahrenheit. In the Bible, the number of languages spoken at the Tower of Babel was 72. After his crucifixion, Jesus spent 72 hours in the tomb before resurrection. Starting with Noah, 72 generations are listed in Genesis 10. In the Jewish Kabbalah, there are 72 names for God. In the Quran, it's said that 72 virgins are rewarded to faithful Muslims in paradise. There's many more examples I could list, but I'll just add that the pentagon has 5 angles, measuring 72 degrees at each angle. 432 and its subsequent orders of magnitude are sacred numbers that reappear quite often in myths, ancient architecture, and scripture. 4,320 is the number of years it takes for a precessional shift of 60 degrees to occur, which means it passes through 2 out of the 12 houses of the zodiac. 432 Hz is also the frequency that is the most resonant to the Earth's natural frequency, which is about 8 Hz. Additionally, the radius of the Sun is equal to 432,000 miles. and the radius of the moon is roughly 1,080 miles. This could just be a coincidence, as there are many different planets and units of measurement, but it's a peculiar fact nonetheless. 1080 is another sacred number that, just like the number 432, is divisible by 72 and 9, and the sum of its digits add up to 9. These numbers can be found in ancient architecture, calendar and measurement systems, and are still in use today. For example, the way we divide units of time. The number of seconds in a 12-hour period is 43,200. The number of minutes in a 72-hour period is 4,320. And the number of hours in an 18-day period is 432. It's also prevalent in how we arrange pixel resolutions on our screens, as they all incorporate numbers divisible by 9. In Hinduism, 9 is the number of Brahma, the creator, and is also known as the number of completion and fulfillment. The Yuga Cycle of world ages in Hinduism incorporates the same numbers as well. The total length of the 4 yugas is 4.32 million years, and the 4th yuga, the one we're in right now, lasts 432,000 years. An even longer cosmic measurement of time in Hindu and Buddhist cosmology is the aeon known as the Kalpa, which is 4.32 billion years long. This period of time generally refers to the creation and recreation of a world or universe. I find it quite interesting how this is roughly the age of the Earth as we currently estimate it, minus about 200 million years. Are we 200 million years overdue for a recreation of the world? Or did such a thing actually happen 200 million years ago? Anyways, the last example of the number 432 I'd like to mention comes from Norse mythology. It's the Myth of Fenrir, a tale of a wolf that was bound by chains who eventually managed to free himself and went on to devour the sun, which ended up causing cataclysmic events. When he shook himself, the earth trembled to its core. The following Norse tradition speaks on the forces that would be unleashed upon Fenrir. It goes, quote, 500 doors and 40 there are, I ween, in Valhalla's walls. 800 fighters through each door fare, when to war with the wolf they go. So we have 540 doors, multiplied by 800 fighters, which means that the number of Norsemen fighting the wolf equals 432,000. Again, could this just be a coincidence? Or could it be possible that some intelligent people used mythological tales because they could be easily passed down generation after generation since time immemorial, with the hope that some equally intelligent people could decipher them and read the astronomical, scientific information that the numbers represent? If you ask me, I'd say it's
entirely possible.
Another super interesting number related to the Great Pyramids relates to its location, more specifically its latitudinal coordinates. The Great Pyramid of Giza's latitude is exactly 29.9792458 degrees north. Brace yourself, because this is gonna blow your mind, as it just so happens that the speed of light is 299,792,458 meters per second. What are the odds of the two numbers being the same? The longitude for the pyramid is 31.1344 degrees east, although we're yet to find a connection as to why this part of the location was chosen. If you ask me, I'm sure there is some significant reason why that number was chosen, as it seems to be the case that absolutely everything about these structures was painstakingly deliberate, and how stressful it must have been hoping to achieve perfection at such a scale with all these variables to consider. The 4 lengths of each side, the height, the location, the inner chambers, their placement in relationship to the other pyramids of the Giza necropolis, all being a factor while the pyramids were being built. And perfection was achieved, with the base perimeter representing the Earth's circumference at the equator, and the height representing the Earth's polar radius. And on top of all that, it is aligned to true north with only an error of 3 arc minutes, or 3/60ths of a degree. We're told that the most accurately north-oriented structure today is the Paris Observatory, but even this comes with an error of 6 minutes of arc from true north. I hope we can now see that it's difficult to write off the precision of the pyramids as being accidental or coincidental, when many of our modern building methods still yield errors greater than the ancient Egyptians. I think the fact that one of the coordinates of the pyramid is the speed of light is no coincidence either. In the ancient texts we found, it talks about how the Great Pyramid used to be covered in polished white limestone, covered with inscriptions and capped with gold at the top. It was said that it would have been very bright and shiny under the sunlight, and it corresponds to the fact that the Kemites referred to it as the Iket, which translates to glorious light. As magnificent as the pyramids look today, just imagine how spectacular they would have looked 5 million years ago when the DMT Elves finished 3D printing them.